Previously on Raquel's story.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Joy's Creative Finger. This is part 3 of Raquel's story, and since the unbelievable drowning of Grace, there was a quick response by the emergency services to rescue both mother and child and have them airlifted to hospital. After initial questioning by the paramedics, it was established that 11-month-old Grace had been underwater for 9 minutes. There was no pulse when Grace was pulled from the water. However, the paramedics were determined to airlift the baby, giving her a chance to fight with the help of life support. There was no brain activity, and the intensive care unit she was placed in was near freezing, cooling her body temperature to protect her from neurological damage. One look at her, and you wanted to swaddle her in warm clothing, but you couldn't. Jennifer had jumped in the pool in severe distress. She wasn't a good swimmer. On the way in, she banged her head. She did get hold of the baby pushchair, but struggled to swim up to the surface. She was barely conscious when the paramedics pulled her up from the water. She sustained a lung injury from near drowning and a concussion that caused a swelling in her brain. As a result, she was put in an induced coma. As soon as Raquel called the emergency services, she immediately called her husband, who was away on business. She was frantic and insisted that John come home immediately. She could barely get her words out. She was so afraid.
You're not listening to me. You need to come home, my love. Jennifer's baby drowned. I don't know what happened.
Wait. I don't understand what business you have with Jennifer. When did you reconnect with her, let alone invite her to the house? And now a drowning?
John, what does that matter? You need to hurry. I think the child is dead. They're asking questions.
Don't speak to anyone. I've got to call my father.
Before the emergency services had arrived, Mr. Lemons was already informed of the events that took place at his son's house. He was in conversation in his study with his wife Philippa when the call came in.
It's unbelievable. Well, I hope you advised her to shut her mouth. I have a few calls to make.
Mr. Lemons was a very powerful man. He called a friend of his at the police station that runs CCTV coverage at John's residence. The last 13 minutes of the coverage revealed all that happened.
Yes, Mr. Lemon, sir, what I am looking at right now is damning. Presumably you want me to delete this from the files. It's damning.
The officer sent the footage to Mr. Lemon as requested and had the drive corrupted so that there was no coverage from the last 2 days. It wouldn't be the first time that the files were damaged, however. This time, it was convenient. The officer was also on Mr. Lemon's private payroll, and he was paid quite well.
It is all gone, sir. It never existed.
Mr. Lemons watched the footage repeatedly and couldn't for the life of him understand why it had happened, but it didn't matter. It involved John, so he was going to protect him at all costs. Raquel decided to take a shower to calm down. Usually she would go for a swim, but after the drowning, the swimming pool was no longer appealing. She had to get ready before John arrived, as he had mentioned that she needed to pack a bag and stay at his parents' to avoid questioning and the press when the news got out. She was sat reading a book all ready when John walked in.
Raquel, honey, I hope you're dressed and ready. The car's waiting out front. What exactly happened?
You were in the kitchen. I was making her a drink. Next thing you know, I asked...
Babe, no, listen. I drop you after the clinic.
John.
The next thing there's a drowning and Jennifer is involved. You are done with this girl.
Raquel sat through a long journey out of town and into the country before arriving at the beautiful Lemon's waterside estate. She had a pit in her stomach and was a bit uncomfortable. However, when she arrived, she met Mrs. Lemon, who was so soft-spoken and welcoming.
Hello, my darling. I hope the ride wasn't uncomfortably too long. Do come in.
Thank you, Mrs. Lemon.
Meeting Mr. Lemon was very uncomfortable. Something about his presence in the foyer made her very unsettled, which triggered Raquel to become quite chatty.
It's really a pleasure meeting you, Mr. Lemon. I haven't seen you since the wedding.
There's no pleasure meeting under these sorts of circumstances. Now that you are here, I've set up a meeting for you and the family lawyer. You need to sit down with a family therapist. They will help you before you give a statement to the police.
That's perfectly fine. I will just make my way and get ready, if that's okay.
Gregory, the therapist is already here.
I'm truly sorry for everything that has happened.
Not to worry. Let's go.
Raquel settled into a therapy session with the professional. This was one of many sessions. However, after speaking with the professional and the family attorney, she was ready for questioning, as she happened to be the only one who could give an account of what had happened. By this time, the police, who had already arrived earlier, established that the CCTV footage was non-existent, and the two that drowned could not speak for themselves, particularly Jennifer, who was on life support. So yes, they really needed to hear from Raquel. Finally, she was here.
Just as I said before, I had made her a drink. She had gone upstairs to put one of the babies down, and when she came back down, we were having a drink when I reminded her to bring the baby.
So basically she left you by the pool with the baby?
No. I walked into the house with her. She left the baby by the pool. Honey, talk to me.
I'm irritated, alright? How did you bring her back into your life? I need some time to calm down.
The ride to the hospital to see Jennifer and the baby was very uncomfortable, but it had to be done. It was a quiet ride down there. Visiting the ICU center was a different experience, particularly for John. The temperatures were quite cold. Raquel, on the other hand, was used to it, but neither of them were prepared to see the state in which this helpless baby was in, with large machines and wires pumping and breathing for her. It was incredibly sad. Raquel pleaded with the intensive care unit nurse to see Jennifer. It would be the first time she would get John to meet her under very unfortunate circumstances. The nurse requested that they stand at a distance by the door. Raquel was shocked to see the state that Jennifer was in. It was incredibly sad. However, when John laid his eyes on Jennifer, he was much more taken aback than Raquel. He already knew Jennifer. He knew her quite well. It was one of the reasons he was quite agitated and uncomfortable that Raquel had reconnected with Jennifer. He couldn't understand it, but there it had happened. Raquel was charged with perverting the course of justice. Law enforcement refused to accept that the only person available to explain what happened on the afternoon of the drowning claims not to remember or hear what happened to a child that was parked by the pool, which she had clear view of from the kitchen where she was making a drink. The jury was sat, with the Honorable Judge Grimsby presiding. The prosecution took to the floor.
Raquel is a cold-hearted woman with a thirst for revenge. Jennifer at short notice did not attend Raquel's wedding, leaving her without a maid of honor. Raquel found out that she could not have any children because of her prostitution and multiple abortions. Raquel's jealousy burned against Jennifer, who had 3 beautiful babies, In one calculated move of wickedness, she invited her home, gave her lots to drink, and when she wasn't looking, drowned an innocent baby, which resulted in the mother also sustaining life-threatening injuries. All this conveniently hidden behind 3 words: I don't remember.
The defense took to the floor.
It is true that Raquel got married without her best friend by her side. It is also true that Raquel has been informed by medical practitioners that she will never be able to have children. However, there is no evidence that corroborates these facts as being the reason that Jennifer and her baby drowned in the pool on that fateful day. And yes, we will prove to you that Raquel does not remember.
John, his mother, and assisting counsel watched as Raquel took the stand.
She went to place her baby up in the room, so I made her a drink.
And can you please tell the court what happened after you made the drink?
She was back, we were drinking, and I asked her to bring the baby in. Then she screamed so loudly and jumped in the pool. Then I called the ambulance.
Did you at any time throw the baby in the pool?
No, I didn't.
Can you explain to the court how you both left the child at the pool, the mother goes away, and you were standing 30 feet from the pool's edge, making a cocktail in the kitchen, and are unable to account for how the child ended up in the pool, drowned for 9 minutes, in clear view of the patio doors?
I simply cannot answer that question. Jennifer is the mother. How am I responsible for what happened? I said that I simply cannot remember. All I know is I was making a drink, and I asked her to bring in the baby.
The judge continued to stare intensely at Raquel as the defense asked her to step down from the witness box. The defense began to call a long line of witnesses to the stand, during which time the judge continued to stare intently at Raquel. He couldn't figure it out. She looked familiar. The defense called Rosie to the stand. She happened to be a shop floor assistant in the grocery store where Raquel went shopping regularly. She told the court how Raquel was stood at the fruit section for about an hour and a half when her manager then asked her to go over and see if Raquel needed any help. The defense submitted CCTV coverage as evidence.
Are you suggesting that customers do not take time to make purchases when they are in your store?
Not for 2 hours.
Finally, the defense spoke to Dr. Pembleton. She was the therapist that had been working with Raquel for days running up to the hearing. She advised the court that she had never seen such a severe case of dissociative amnesia, which is a memory loss condition that can occur after a person experiences a traumatic event such as abuse, neglect, or death of a loved one.
Doctor, are you suggesting she forgot the event of the drowning as soon as it happened?
It can cause people to block out memories of painful events or people as defense mechanisms. This can include forgetting they hurt someone.
Dr. Pembleton, in your expert opinion, explain to the court what Raquel's mental state would have been if she had witnessed the drowning or caused the drowning according to the prosecution.
The drowning of a child and friend collectively equal a traumatic event, a memory that would be completely blocked out. In my expert opinion, after working with Raquel, she had multiple abortions between the ages of 8 and 15. While working for a fruit seller as an orphan, she was repeatedly trafficked and her womb was completely damaged. Raquel has been left untreated mentally and should never have been around babies. She suffers from dissociative amnesia in its most severe form. Most cases of dissociative amnesia are temporary, but memory gaps can last anywhere from a few minutes to an entire lifetime. Those with the dissociative amnesia may be at greater risk of self-injury, wandering, or hurting others.
Thank you, Dr. Pembleton.
It was at that moment that the judge remembered exactly who Raquel was. He took over the case and apologized to the jury for taking up their valuable time.
I recognize you, Raquel, from a case years ago where we locked up a notorious man, Monsieur Cloriot, who had raped and tormented young girls in a marketplace in Paris. I recognize you from the pictures. He's behind bars. I wanted to verify it was you after looking through the documents in the files. The case is dismissed, and I firmly believe Raquel suffers from severe dissociative amnesia. You should report to the Special Minds Matters facility within 30 days to register and commence intense treatment. I'm really sorry you were not taken care of earlier. It is this court's judgment that she does not remember.
I've never been so scared in my life.
You've been through so much.
I've been told Jennifer is out of a coma.
No way.
I have to see her, John. I've got to.
John decided to drop off Raquel at the hospital and make it back to a very important meeting. He would join her that night at the Lemons Waterside estate. But if it got too late, he'd arrive in the morning, pick her up on her things, and head home. Raquel arrived at the hospital, and it was true. Jennifer had made a recovery. However, she remembered absolutely nothing of the events that took place. When she was told that her child had drowned and was on life support, she was completely devastated and incredibly distressed. They explained to her that at this point the child would be brain dead and needed her to understand that they would need to switch off the life support machine. They were showing her a kindness to have kept the baby on that long while they waited for Jennifer to wake up. She pleaded with the doctors, asking to spend some time with the child before the ultimate decision. They agreed, and immediately she was placed in a wheelchair. She started to pray. She remembered her mother prayed about everything. So Jennifer started to pray. See your face, and I'm gonna find you. You supply my needs every day. I'll run to you, and you're gonna be there. It didn't look like John was going to make it back in time for dinner, so the housekeeper served a meal for 3. The Lemons had a sham of a marriage. It was purely for keeping up appearances in social settings, as most powerful couples do. But tonight they tried to put up a united front for Raquel. However, after dinner, Philippa would retreat to the furthest end of the west wing of this enormous mansion, and Mr. Lemon would retreat to the east. Raquel was situated in a room somewhere towards the back, in the middle.
Congratulations on your win, Raquel.
Thank you.
I always knew you were a pretty girl, not a whore, let alone a murderer. Would you take a look at this? Is it you, by any chance? I didn't get where I am today without collecting a whole ton of leverage. You're mine now. I own you. You understand?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. Stop.
You do as I say? Take it off. Shut your mouth. Shut up.
In this shocking turn of events came an unbelievable moment of reckoning.
Dear God, it's sorcery! Tell me now, how did you get that birthmark? How did you get that birthmark on your back? It's sorcery! How did you worm your way into this house? How did you get to John? How? Leave my family alone! Get out! Get out of my house now! Now!
Who do you think Raquel is to Mr. Lemon? Who do you think Jennifer is to John? And do you think Raquel and Jennifer should still be friends? Let me know in the comments down below. Have an amazing weekend, and I'll see you again soon in the next episode. Take care. Bye.